Hey guys, so I received a lot of requests on how to wrap the Dash case. In particular, mine I wrapped in a titanium 3M vinyl, and you can choose what type of finish you want, but mine in particular I did because the OEM finish was kind of starting to chip away and kind of looked pretty bad. But you could do it for either that reason or just a cosmetic change. It looks kind of cool. So yeah, I'll be walking through how to do that. As you can see, it doesn't really affect any of the mechanism involved. So yeah, let's get to it. Hope you enjoy.
So laid out here, we have all the items that you'll need in order to wrap the Dash. And beginning with this is a hairdryer. If you have a heat gun, that also works. Typically, if you're using a hairdryer, you're going to want to use it on the high setting. If you have a heat gun, you're going to want to use it on the low setting. So then we have the vinyl wrapping tool. This is a basic tool. This one comes with a piece of felt on it, which works better when you're using materials that are a little glossier. So for this, either one will be fine because it's a little bit of a rougher material. But if you just have a regular one, what you can do, as I've done here, is you can use a microfiber cloth and then just tape it around, and it'll keep that edge from scratching anything. Next up we have an X-Acto knife, and that's going to be to trim the vinyl once you put it actually on the Dash. Alternatively, if you don't have that, you can use some razor blades. Those work just as well. You're going to want a pair of scissors to trim out your material to roughly the size that you're going to need for the Dash case. Then you're going to want some isopropyl alcohol and a little towel just to clean the case, to prep it before we actually wrap the case. And then obviously you're going to want your material of choice. Here we have some brushed titanium. So those are all the materials. If you don't have any, you can purchase most of these on Amazon, eBay, or an X-Acto knife you can get at a hardware store. Isopropyl you can get at a pharmacy. Most people have a hairdryer. You don't really need a heat gun for this. So those are the materials. So first up, we're going to work on cleaning the Dash. So remove the Dash from the case. Then we're going to take some isopropyl. This is 91%, but really any percent will be fine for this application. Dab a little onto your cloth. Just get it off very nice. Mine has a little bit of residue from when I last had vinyl on it. Most of the time it'll be pretty clean, but this will ensure that when we do apply the vinyl, it'll get a proper adhesion and it will stick very well so that you won't need to ever redo this. Obviously, if you want to redo it at some point, you can. When removing vinyl, it's very useful to have the heat gun or a hair dryer to soften the vinyl up a little bit before removing it. Alright, there we go, pretty clean. Alright, so after cleaning the case here, what we want to do next is size up the actual piece of material that we want to use. And what I found is, if you see the little slit where the actual headphones can, show the light through, what we want to do is line up the piece of material there, and then keep it firm in place, and just wrap it around. And you want to see roughly, and when I say roughly, this is it's always better to leave more material than obviously less. So see there, we'll give it maybe about 1 millimeter of space, and then we'll go ahead and trim the excess here. And don't worry about this direction, because you'll see when we actually work on the curve here, you're going to want excess here to work with. So just focus on the actual kind of circumference of the ellipse here, just doing it like that, alright? will stretch it right out and kind of make it go back to its original form. So pardon if it's loud for a second. Alright, now that we've done that, we're ready for the application. So what we want to do is you want to peel back a little bit of this, maybe about half. Okay? Then what you're going to do on the case, whichever side of yours is flattest is the one you want to go along this edge here. Okay? If you can't see, that's the edge where you put the dash in. Alright? So we're going to go right along here. Okay, so we have the beginning of the adhesion here. And then as you can see, it's perfectly lined up here. What you want to do to avoid any air bubbles, you want to press it down here. Right along the curve like that. You can see it's pretty smooth there. And we're going to actually avoid doing the edge here for a little bit. We're going to fully wrap it around this corner here, making sure that the whole time this is lined up on the edge here. And once we have that there, we're going to do the same thing. Start in the corner, make sure to keep it pressed pretty solidly, and push it along there. Okay. You can see if you get any little air bubbles there, you can just lift again and repress down. So it's probably not going to come out perfect the first time if it's the first attempt you've made at this. But there you go. So now we have it nice and smooth. It's flush on the edge here. Now what I'm actually going to do is, now that we have it around the first part of the dash case, I'm going to probably leave about maybe an inch here, and I'm going to cut the rest off. And you don't have to be precise here, but just roughly an inch. Okay. Pull that right off. And then what we'll do, so make sure that's still part of the, the actual backing here is on it. But then we want to start pressing over here, so that corner gets pressed down like that. See, it'll stick pretty well. And what you'll notice is the toughest part of this is going to be this bend here, and that's where we actually need to make some slight cuts, which are going to provide some tension relief. You'll see in a little bit why that helps. It essentially will give us different points to pull from, so when we wrap it over, it'll be pretty flush and not a little crimply, as you can see if you've ever done a vinyl wrap before. So yeah, make those relief cuts there, and then we're going to start pressing that in with a little bit of added heat so we can stretch it over a little bit. So now we're going to take a little bit of heat, apply it here. And one thing I forgot to mention, you don't want to make these relief cuts too deep, or else it's going to not really overhang very well. So we're going to get a little heat in here. Sorry if it's hard to hear, I'll talk a little louder. But then apply some pretty even heat across. And once you have that in, we're going to start slowly pulling and wrapping around. And you can You can use this tool, but since it's such a tight corner, I typically find it easier to actually just press with your hand very evenly. As you'll see here, you can get a pretty good even distribution going with your hand. A little bit better than you can with the tool, the vinyl application tool. So see, we're slowly pressing it in, starting to come together. The heat we applied definitely makes it a lot easier. I'd say for this step, that's the most crucial part of it. The relief cuts are good, but without the heat, they're not going to really help that much. So you'll see we're almost at the end of the ring in there. Okay, so keep pressing in. If it gets too tight, get a little more heat in there. Remember to apply it pretty evenly. Now ready to get this other side too. Start pulling it up. And just slowly work it in until you're in the groove there. See, so this side's pretty much done here. And now we're going to focus over here. Now we've got a little heat in, it should be a little easier. So as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm going all the way around. I don't want to put too much pressure on one place, because then you actually start to see some sag in the vinyl. You want to basically keep it even all along this corner as you go. So just keep working that through, and soon should be there. Voila. So next we want to do, remove the full backing, and then you want to keep going on the outside here. Just make sure nothing's tucked under here. Keep it smooth along. What you can do is cut the extra little excess on the other side as well that I didn't cut earlier. Pull that one off. Keep going. So you'll see earlier we cut more than we needed, right? So now what we'll do, get this off of here. We still probably want to leave a little bit of excess, just because it's hard to eyeball when you're cutting to make it flush. But what we're going to do is maybe leave a few centimeters of overhang and then just trim it right there. Like I said, this doesn't have to be super accurate, because we're going to go in with our X-Acto later, and we're going to make it more precise. Okay. So, next up, make sure that's sealed over here. And if you'll recall, that's the edge we started on, so that's where the little seam is that the headlight, or the dash lights can come through. So, now that we have this overhang here, cut a few more of these little relief cuts. I have less material, so I'm going to make them a little smaller here. And we're going to apply a little more heat. So you get it a little soft. applying and distributing the force kind of evenly around. Okay. See, it should start to come together a lot nicer your second time doing it. See. Almost there. Well, you can see what I did on the other side is I just tucked everything in, because at the end we're just going to go with our X-Acto and slice all the excess material off. So once we get to that point on this side, it should be good. Little stubborn piece here. Okay. And there we go. You can see now it's touching the edge there. So we're done with that piece, and I'm going to go ahead and start tucking that in. So start folding, just tuck all of that in. Okay. So that concludes the hardest piece. So the next step is going to be in this little overseam we have here. You can see where it overlaps there. So what we're going to do is take the X-Acto knife. Just going to slice it here. Very lightly, because you don't want to scratch the dash case. What we're going to do is we're going to, you can see the seam now of where the indentation is for the lights. So you're just going to take X-Acto as precise as you can here. You cut from end to end. That way. Actually do is the back of the blade, which is not dull, but it's more dull than the front side. And just kind of tuck that all in. Okay. So then, now you'll have an opening for the lights. So you'll see, take our dash, pop it in. You can actually see it through. Okay. that is essentially how you wrap the dash case. Still can have the functionality of it, and now it's protected. So that's pretty much the tutorial for wrapping the dash case. If you've seen the Bragi headphones just came out, of course it's called the headphone. The case to that is actually very similar. If you guys want, I can show you how to do that one as well, but it's pretty much the same process. So yeah, stay tuned if you would like to see any more tutorials like this, or if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. And thanks.